somebody who feels envious of you ends up befriending you. One of the laws is, I think, the most important. It's basically make people dependent on you. You don't want to appeal to people's love, to the fact that they like you. You want to appeal to the fact that they need you. Because if they love you, love is a very tenuous emotion. In fact, it doesn't work very well in the work situation. It causes all kinds of problems. They'll get rid of you tomorrow, even though they like you. But if they need you, it's like pulling out all of these roots of a plant to get rid of you. It's going to cause all kinds of damage all over the place. They need you and they can't get rid of you. So you need to make sure that your position in a company, in life in general, you're the only person who can do that. Everybody feels envy. We don't like to admit it. And where it comes from is it's the chimpanzee in us. You know, oftentimes in life, somebody will do kind of a surprisingly ugly, nasty turn to us. They'll sabotage our work. They'll say something ugly behind our back. They'll literally manipulate us in some way. Anybody can have that level of power in their life. You go around thinking everything is personal. Wow, that person was cold to me in that meeting. They don't like me. I don't like, something's wrong with her. You go around, everything is personal. Oh, why did he say that? Why is my mom telling me this? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm telling you, it's not personal. That's the liberating fact. People are wrapped up in their own emotions, their own traumas. They're reliving things from their childhood. They get angry at you, but you're not really the trigger. The trigger is something that happened to them when they were 4 or 5 or 20 or whatever. So to realize that it's not personal, that people are acting out of their own dramas, their own traumas, their own emotional problems from way back, should kind of take all the burdens away from you. So you don't have to react and take things personally. It's extremely liberating to be rid of all of that emotional baggage that you assume from other people, thinking that they have something against you, or that they're reacting about, something personal. So that's the liberating aspect. But the thing is, we're social animals to the core. You wouldn't be here talking without all the billions of people who created language before you, without your education, without your parents, without your teachers. They have molded you. They have made you who you are. So we are not really individuals. We are built by other people by being social. We're kind of a conglomerate of all these other interactions of relationships. And so we're really generally kind of bad at this aspect of life because we don't understand other people. We assume that we take like a sort of a simple snapshot of people. They're nice, they're not nice, they're pleasant, they're not pleasant, they're smart or not smart. But people are infinitely complicated. They have a wealth of emotions. They're going through things that you're not even beginning to see. And if you can begin to pierce their mask and get inside their psychology and understand where they're coming from, suddenly the whole game changes. And what you say and how you act with them will change as well. And you will find your relationships are much more smoother. Your bonds with people will be much deeper. And you'll be able to deal with those ugly, toxic types that inevitably cross your path. Well, think of it this way. Let's say you want to make something in life. You want to start a business. You want to write a book. You want to create a podcast. It takes a lot of work, and that work isn't fun, right? It involves a lot of tedious detail. Mm-hmm. It involves dealing with people who aren't listening to you. They don't immediately respond to your idea. You have to deal with frustration, and you have to be disciplined. That's not fun, right? And our default position in life is to always want things to be fun and easy, right? We take the path of least resistance. So when we're children, if we weren't educated, if we didn't have teachers or parents telling us to study, we'd be these monsters. I think it was the poet Coleridge that compared it to a garden that's never tended and it just turns into weeds. That's what children would become if there was nobody educating them. That's who we would become if there was nobody instilling in us a sense of discipline. So when you're working as a 12-year-old, 13-year-old, developing a work ethic and discipline, you're actually tapping into what I call your higher nature. We admire the fact that great buildings were built, great bridges, and our cities are marvels of technology, and we have museums and all this. That was built by people who were masters at their field, who delved into who connected to this higher nature. They were disciplined. They worked hard. They put their energy into their work, not into getting attention and not into their ego. And so that is the higher nature that all of us have as the potential. And whenever you stop thinking about yourself and start putting your mind into your work or put your mind into other people and their problems, you're tapping into that higher nature. I believe we humans naturally feel envy. Everybody feels envy. We don't like to admit it. And where it comes from is it's the chimpanzee in us. It's been shown that primates are very attuned to other animals in their clan, and they're constantly comparing themselves. Who's the alpha chimp? Who has more than I have? We are, by our nature, the way our minds work, continually comparing ourselves to other people who, they have a better job. They're making more money. Their book is selling more, etc. And that's the source of envy, right? I mean, that's deep underneath the source of envy. But that constant comparing to people, which is so endemic on social media, has the potential to be turned into something positive. It can turn into the desire to compete and instead of envying what that other person has, to actually achieve it for yourself. Oftentimes in life, somebody will do kind of a surprisingly ugly, nasty turn to us. They'll sabotage our work. They'll say something ugly behind our back. They'll literally manipulate us in some way. And we'll get drawn into the emotions of that all. And we'll go, what a app. Or, and we don't really understand where it came from. And most of the time where it does actually come from is envy.
Yeah.
And we can't unravel that knot because we didn't see it originally. I make the distinction between active and passive envy. Passive envy is what we feel every day naturally. As we look on Facebook and we see other people are having a great vacation, we go, God, their life is better than mine. Damn it. We feel that every day and we need to admit it. It's very human. And we don't do it. It doesn't lead to anything bad necessarily. Active envy can happen to anybody, but generally there are people who are envier types, and they're prone to feeling such strong envy that they act on it. They not only just sort of feel it, they give you a comment that is targeted to make you feel bad. And you'll start to internalize it. You go, maybe they're right. Maybe there's something wrong with me. Or you'll kind of attack them or whatever. But what you don't realize is that it comes from a place of envy. They actually envy you. And if you know that, you can prepare and make sure that you don't become friends with them. And you can also not take it so personally. You can see where it's really coming from. And people like that will tend to disguise it. They'll tend to disguise it as it's just their humor.
Right.
They're just a sarcastic type.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you took it personally. Can't you take a joke?
Right.
But it doesn't come from just a jolly joie de vivre. It comes from, an ugly place, a place where they want to hurt you. And, we might say that, well, this is kind of minor stuff. But you let somebody like that around you a lot with their little barbs all the time, it gets under your skin and it starts to weigh you down and it kind of gives you some emotional baggage. That can be kind of toxic. And then there are people who do nasty things from a place of envy that can ruin your life for years. The thing that we don't realize, though, that the people most likely to feel envy, first of all, we all feel envy. We're all comparing ourselves to other people. I feel it all the time. We all feel small degrees of envy. But there are people, I call it passive envy, but active envy means people act on it. They do something to hurt you. They sabotage you in some way. Frenemies are the classic scenario. So somebody who feels envious of you ends up befriending you. And consciously, they may not be even aware of that. They think, well, I do want to like them. But unconsciously, they feel envy. They think that you have success that you don't necessarily deserve, that you have what they want, right? They become your friend and they charm you, et cetera, et cetera. And then lo and behold, you start noticing all kinds of behavior that's very ugly that you weren't expecting because they're your friend. They start saying bitchy comments that get under your skin, that make you feel insecure. They take things from you. They act in ways that are hurtful. But because they're your friend, your first instinct is to blame yourself. Well, maybe it's my fault that they've done this. Maybe I'm actually to blame for what they're saying, et cetera, et cetera. So I believe behind the frenemies phenomenon is this phenomena of envy, where the person secretly wants what you have and they're becoming your friend so that they can wound you. And what's best to do is to recognize that. And one common sign of a frenemy, of somebody who's befriending you out of envy, is they're in a rush to be your friend. Normally, we like to take it a little bit slow. We just don't let anybody into our lives. We like to vet them a little bit beforehand, right? We don't trust everybody. But the person who feels envy is like, I love you. You're fantastic. I want to be your friend. We got to hang out. Let's go out for dinner the next night, et cetera, et cetera. They're in a hurry. That's a sign that something else is going on, because that's not natural. We've all had to deal with that. I've had to deal with that as well. You have success, and you came from a background where you weren't so successful, and your friends are still there, and they envy you, and they're not very nice to you. And it's not a good quality. And I understand the quality. I understand where it comes from. And I wrote about it in Human Nature, where we're all aware of the what we call Schadenfreude. Schadenfreude means you take pleasure in other people's pain. So you hear a friend didn't get the job that they wanted to get, and you go, "Oh, I'm sorry," but deep down inside, you're kind of happy. We all go through that, right? The opposite is Mitfreude. It's an expression that Nietzsche coined, which means you feel joy for other people. I like to try and cultivate some of the higher qualities in life. So if something good happens to somebody, my first thing is I might feel a twinge of envy, but then I go, it's great for them. I'm actually very happy. I'm excited. I share their joy in what has happened, right? But it's not natural. So when somebody that you know and you've known for a long time has success in life, your first thing is to be, they didn't deserve it. They kind of cheated their way to it. Okay, as we talked about in the very beginning, there, and they envy you, and they're not very nice to you. And, it's not a good quality. And I understand the quality. I understand where it comes from. And I wrote about it in Human Nature, where we're all aware of the what we call Schadenfreude. Schadenfreude means you take pleasure in other people's pain. So you hear a friend didn't get the job that they wanted to get, and you go, "Oh, I'm sorry," but deep down inside, you're kind of happy. We all go through that, right? The opposite is Mitfreude. It's an expression that Nietzsche coined, which means you feel joy for other people. I like to try and cultivate some of the higher qualities in life. So if something good happens to somebody, my first thing is I might feel a twinge of envy, but then I go, it's great for them. I'm actually very happy. I'm excited. I share their joy in what has happened, right? But it's not natural. So when somebody that you know and you've known for a long time has success in life, your first thing is to be, they didn't deserve it. They kind of cheated their way to it. Okay, as we talked about in the very beginning, you confront that ugly emotion yourself and you go, that's not who I want to be. And you go, I'm going to make myself feel the opposite. I'm going to make myself feel happy for their success. So what people will go through in that sense is something in our nature that is hierarchical, that has deep roots in us. But I do believe in one form of equality. And that is everybody at their birth has the possibility for following the path that I talk about in Mastery, for being great, for fulfilling their destiny, for being the unique individual that they are at birth. So everybody is born with a DNA that will never be replicated in the past or in the future, right? There is a uniqueness about every person. And there's a uniqueness about your parents, about your background, about your early years, right? And that uniqueness is a seed that if you cultivate it and you use it and you know your purpose and you mine it for power, I do honestly, and I'm not faking, I do honestly believe that everyone has that potential. But it's not equal in the outcomes of that. There are a lot of people, the majority of people don't follow that path. But I do believe everybody has that potential. You don't have to be famous and successful. There are grades of this. There are degrees of it. Some people, it's just being a great parent. They're very social. They're very empathetic. And they're not maybe going to become an extremely successful finance person, but they're really good at raising their children and they put a lot of effort and care into it. That's fantastic. You don't have to be famous. You don't have to be Steve Jobs. There are levels of it, right? But the sense of this was what I was meant to accomplish and I'm following it and I'm happy what I do. I feel fulfilled by my work and I can go on doing it. I take it seriously. I care about it. I do believe that anybody can have that level of power in their life. We're all individuals. We all have our unique energies. It's the fact that you engage, you love that you're emotionally connected to it, that it gives you a sense of fulfillment, that you're not looking over your shoulder, oh, I could be doing this instead. I'm fine with that. It doesn't have to be the Steve Jobs who's continually dissatisfied, who's Faustian, who always has to have more. I'm not against that either. I don't know why we have to be so judgmental. If people are following the path and they are in love with what they do and they have a genuine connection to it, I'm not going to judge it because they're not famous or because they're not trying to be the greatest, the Michael Jordan of tiling or whatever, et cetera. I think it's fine. Why can't we have, that kind of diversity in our world? You're able to look at the world. First of all, you're able to look at yourself and assess who you are and not be filled with all these illusions or these insecurities. This is who I am, realistically. This is my problems, my weaknesses, my strengths. This is what I'm good at. This is what I'm destined to create. Your ability to look at other people realistically and see through their appearances, see through their masks. They pretend to be this, but they're actually that. And I'm not going to be fooled. I'm not going to be naive and I'm not going to be fooled. I'm going to see into that. This is what the world is like right now. These are the trends. I'm not deceived by all the things in social media. I know what's going on and where the world is headed in 3 years. You've got this laser focus. You're seeing through yourself. You're seeing through other people. You're seeing through all the bullshit in the world. You understand what's happening. You can't fail when you have an attitude like that, right? And you also understand the power of being fearless and taking risks, which is also a part of a realistic attitude. All right, how do you get there, right? Well, it's not easy because we're born with a certain attitude. We're born with things, with burdens and baggage from our childhood, etc. It's like a daily process.
Yes.
Right? You have to see first your negative attitude, where it comes from, the problems with it, what is holding you back. And now you have the power to begin to fashion it to a degree that's going to actually be something strong and powerful. Well, this is what the book is designed for. So I've been covering this for 25 years. It's scattered across 6 books, right? In Master, I talk to you how to be realistic about your career. In Power, I tell you how to be realistic about the power games going on. In War, how to be strategic. Human nature, how to see into people. But it's all scattered and it's hard to find the cohesive thread through all these different books. This book is going to bring it all together. It's going to help you. It's very laser focused. And I talk about it in the introduction on crafting that hardcore realistic attitude about you, where you're headed in your career, the mistakes you're making, about people and their weaknesses and the power games they play, about what it takes to influence and persuade people on and on and on. And you're going to be doing it every day. Now, I know because I meditate every morning. I've been doing it for 11 years now. It's saved my life, I can honestly say. Every morning I sit on the pillows for 40 minutes now. I just focus on getting outside of myself. And I learn through this process that day by day by day by day, change occurs. It doesn't occur in a dramatic way. It doesn't occur like, wow, I'm different now. It almost occurs unconsciously. Things seep into you that you're not even aware of. This book is designed to get under your skin day by day by day by day. You're going to read it. It's going to make you think. You're going to go on to the next day. It's going to kind of strengthen that idea, come at it from another angle. And slowly it's going to get under your skin and it's going to alter how you look at the world and alter your attitude. And then maybe you'll reread it in a year. That's what it's designed for.
For me, this is the exact type of book that is perfect for me because it's hard for me to get through a full book, any type of book. But when I can go to one page every day and read something that's going to be powerful to help me improve and give me a tip, a strategy, an idea to improve something in my life, it's the perfect type of book. So make sure you guys get a few copies, the Daily Laws, because your friends are going to enjoy this, especially in a world where for most people, it's hard to stay focused long periods of time and keep their attention on something for a week or weeks through an entire book sometimes. I don't want to generalize, but the millennials of the world, this might be a good book for them to get as a gift. So get this, and every day you'll get a page that'll give you some meditations on power, seduction, mastery, strategy, and human nature. It's going to give me a tip, a strategy, an idea to improve something in my life. It's the perfect type of book. So make sure you guys get a few copies, the Daily Laws, because your friends are going to enjoy this, especially in a world where for most people, it's hard to stay focused long periods of time and keep their attention on something for a week or weeks through an entire book sometimes. I don't want to generalize, but the millennials of the world, this might be a good book for them to get as a gift. So get this, and every day you'll get a page that'll give you some meditations on power, seduction, mastery, strategy, and human nature. It's going to help you improve your life. So make sure you guys check this out. Where are you spending the most time on social media right now?
I probably have become... I have somebody managing my TikTok account.
Yes. Got some good TikToks on there.
Yeah, I don't really spend a lot of time on it, but I have looked at it, and that's kind of a new frontier, and it's kind of exciting.
Very exciting.
Yeah. And it's not natural to me, but I'm learning it.
Yes.
Because, I'm of that age where it's like TikTok. Well, I don't know, but I'm enthusiastic. Yes. I probably spend more time on Instagram, I have to admit.
And you're Robert Greene official on Instagram, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I've kind of gone off Facebook like a lot of people. And I've never really been a big Twitterer.
Okay.
Although I do have a Twitter account.
Robert Greene there, but Robert Greene official, you're posting more on Instagram, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I have posts on Twitter as well. And then I have the TikTok stuff that's going on.
Is that just Robert Greene? When they search your name, we'll find it there. We'll link it up all in the show notes as well so people can see it there. I want to ask you a question that I've asked you before a few times. This is your fourth or fifth time on now. And it's called the 3 truths. And I have your previous ones here. So I'm curious if it's evolved or changed as you have maybe a different perspective on life now. So the question goes like this. Imagine it's your last day on earth many years away from now, and you continue to accomplish all of your goals and dreams. But for whatever reason, you've got to take all of your work with you, and it's your last day, and you have 3 final things you get to share with the world. These 3 lessons you would leave behind, or 3 truths you would share with people. And they wouldn't have access to your books or your work or this interview or any of your content. What would be those 3 truths that you would leave behind?
Whoa. Well, so recently I suffered a stroke like 3 years ago, came out of the blue. I was totally healthy, swimming, biking, doing everything, and now it's all taken away from me. So the truth is The first truth is, don't take anything for granted.
Mm-hmm.
Don't assume that what you have now is going to go on forever. It could be taken away from you tomorrow. And appreciate and love deeply what you have right now.
Mm-hmm.
It is an insane gift to be young. I wish I could go back to being young again, because that was the most fun time in my life, right? You're in your 20s, you're healthy, you're exciting, you're seducing, you're just having lots of fun. Well, it doesn't last. Well, appreciate it and soak up every second of it, because something like this could happen to you tomorrow, particularly with this COVID that we're all living through. So do not take the smallest thing for granted, because it could be taken away from you.
That's one.
Well, do not be afraid to face your own kind of weaknesses, right? And I'm speaking from experience, because you're asking me like what's happened recently, you know? And I've had to come to terms with my own limitations, because I thought that I could do anything, right? And it's not just the physical limitation, it's the mental limitations. It's the frustrations that I have. It's the anger with myself. It's like, why can't I? Is there something wrong with me that in my physical therapy, I'm not able to strengthen my left arm, etc.? And I've been afraid, I think, to confront that and to see that I am my own enemy. I've probably gotten in the way of my own recovery.
Really?
By my attitude, by being impatient, by being in too much of a hurry, right? So I've had to step back, and I've had to see, I've had to have some humility. So that's sort of the lesson.
Okay. Yes.
I'm not as great as I thought I was, but I can work on that. Now that I know that my impatience is getting in my way, I'm going to work on that every day. So if at night I stumble or I drop something, I'm going to calm down. And I'm going through this kind of physical therapy now, which is actually trying to alter my attitude towards my own body. But I'm confronting my own limitations, and it can be at any age. And it's actually, you know, helping me get through this kind of ordeal that I'm going through.
Wow.
You know?
Okay.
3.
3.
I guess it's, I hope it doesn't sound too soft, like Robert Greene is not like the 48 Laws of Power anymore, because I am still that hardcore person.
Yeah.
Don't worry about me. All right, I haven't lost my edge, maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
Is the ability to kind of forgive people.
Ooh.
You know? So, and I'm not the most forgiving person. So I had a thing in mastery that's called suffer fools gladly. It's an expression from the Bible. And it means the world is always filled with foolish people, fools, who are stupid, who don't know what they're doing, etc. And your tendency is to get angry and irritated and upset. And instead, you need to suffer them. You need to be tolerant towards them, because there are too many of them in this world, right?
Sure.
And I've never been good at that, you know? Like, and I've learned, like, when I'm judging people, etc., to sort of, it kind of goes to that other one. They're all interrelated. But, you know, maybe I'm too quick to judge. Maybe I can understand their problem. Maybe if I've hired this researcher and they're not working out, maybe it's because I'm not explaining myself very well, or they've got other issues. And I'm not going to maybe try and repair the relationship or keep them on as a researcher, but I'm going to forgive them. I'm not going to carry the weight. I'm not going to carry them around with me. There's this old Buddhist kind of parafable where these 2 monks come up to a river, and there's this old woman who can't cross the river. And one of the monks, because they can kind of walk across, she's too old, one of the monks puts her on his shoulders and carries her across and lets her go. And she's so grateful. As they walk on, the other monk says, you know, we're never supposed to do that. As Buddhists, you're not supposed to touch people. You're not supposed to handle them. You violated one of the most important laws of Buddhism. On and on and on. He went criticizing him and about it. Finally, the guy said, well, look, I left that woman on the other side of the river. You're still carrying her right now. right? You're still carrying her mentally with you.
Mhm.
Let go, right? So I've created for myself a mantra in my daily meditation. It's called let go. Just let go of the rancor, let go of the hurts, let go of the past, and kind of forgive and kind of be in the moment.
How important is expressing emotions and feelings of the greats that you've studied or the people you've been around? Do they express their emotions and feelings publicly? Do they do it privately? Do they journal? Do they suppress their emotions and just act and just have a positive attitude all the time? What do you think is the importance or lack of importance of
Well,
emotions?
I think everybody's different, but in general, if my knowledge of psychology and all the books I've read is that you pay a price for repressing your emotions. That repressing something eventually comes out. And the great psychologist Carl Jung, he was the one who kind of studied that in great depth. When you repress, for instance, your dark side or your dark emotions, they come out in other ways, right? So trying to always like present yourself as this very stoic person when in fact you're not, you're going to pay a price for it. It's going to come out in ways you can't control, right? There's going to be a negative consequences to that. And so, on the other hand, you don't want to be this person who's constantly emoting and telling everybody what you feel like. It's very irritating. You have no self-control and people are judging you. You look like this weak person who can't control your own tongue. You can't control it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I compare it in my books and in talks to the metaphor of the rider and the horse, right? So the rider of the horse is your rational brain. And the horse is your emotion. It's the animal part of you. It's what makes you angry or excited or fearful. The rider is what makes you kind of, get things done.
Yeah.
If the rider on that horse, I don't know if people have ridden a horse. I used to ride a lot when I was a kid. If you hold the reins too tightly, if you're trying to control the horse and repress it, constricting it, horses are very sensitive animals, right? And it won't do anything. It won't follow any of your instructions. It won't go anywhere, or it will freak out and it will run far away and it'll throw you off the horse. But if you just let the horse go anywhere, the horse also feels that. The horse has been tamed to some extent. Because I have no respect for him, right? He's not trying to do anything. And the horse will go wherever it wants. You have no control. People who know how to ride horses, they know they have to have a balance. You have to hold the reins, not too tightly, but you have to be able to guide the horse. You have to squeeze with the thighs, but not too tightly. The horse, you have to feel relaxed and one with the horse. The horse then gives in and you can go anywhere. So you want a balance in life. You want to be able to understand your emotions, right? You want to be able to understand why you're angry, why you're fearful, why you're frustrated, and not just give into the emotion, like let the horse go anywhere. So that maybe next time you understand, well, maybe I don't need to feel anger or fear because it's not really related to anything. So you have a balance. You understand the horse, the emotion, and you can control it to some degree, but not over control it or repress it. Because like I know if I get angry a lot, I could have anger issues, right? The moments where I give into it, I regret. I sent that angry email to my agent.
Oh man.
The next day,
You feel bad.
Yeah.
Do you apologize a lot after you're angry, or do you just kind of say, I'm
Yeah,
a
I
grumpy
do.
old man now, just like,
Well, I am a grumpy old man, but yeah, I do apologize.
oh, that's nice.
Apologies are good. It's a good thing to do.
Yeah.
But I feel terrible, right? And so you have to go through a process like before you send that email, why am I angry? Do your hindsight thing. Will I be feeling angry in 3 weeks? No. Is it really important? Is it possibly my own fault? When you go through that process, you're not repressing the anger. You're not pushing it down so that it explodes 3 days later when you yell at somebody who inadvertently crosses your path. That's what happens when you repress it. But you understand it and you let it work for you. Okay, I won't write that angry email. But then you can use your anger for other things like writing a book, right, et cetera, or believing in some social cause that's important, et cetera. So it's a balance.
I'm curious about 48 Laws of Power and Laws of Human Nature. This is probably going to be a hard question, but I'm going to throw it out there anyways. What was your favorite law from the 48 Laws of Power pre-stroke? And what would you say is your favorite one now? And same for human nature. Favorite kind of law of human nature, pre-stroke, that you're like, this is the thing, I'm a season of my life that I really had connected to, and now something that you lean on or connect to in a different way.
Wow, that's a tough question.
It's hard, I get it. I mean, there's somebody.
Yeah. Well,
First thing that comes to mind, maybe.
well, for me, for the 48 laws of power, this will be kind of symmetrical. But law number one was always like the most important one to me. Never outshine the master, because it was the first law. It was the first successful book I ever had. When I first pitched it to the man who produced the book, I told him the story that initiated the Never Outshine the Master. And I had personally violated that law on several occasions, and it caused me a lot of misery and pain in my life.
Why?
Why what?
Why did it cause you a lot of misery and pain by violating the law?
Well, this is before I wrote the book.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a job in the film business and television show with a very famous person whose name I will not mention.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a researcher on it. And I was the best researcher there by far. You know, you count success by how many stories you found and what got actually filmed.
And yours got filmed the most.
I had like a 60% rate or something like that.
Wow.
I knew I was the best. And then I got fired.
Why?
Right?
Because you're outshining the master.
Well, at the time I thought she hated my guts. You know, I pissed somebody off. I said the wrong thing. And I was capable of sometimes doing that because I could have an attitude.
Mm-hmm.
And I was blaming other people, etc. But then, you know, it sort of dawning on me. And then later when I wrote the book, it was very clear to me that I had inadvertently made her think that I felt greater than she was, that I was after her job. Other people were really praising me and not praising her so much. I was getting too much attention. And it happened another time, a second time, right? I wasn't controlling myself. And so that law meant a lot to me because it was very painful. Being fired is a very painful experience. I don't know if you've ever been through that.
No, I haven't.
Really?
No, I mean, I've never had a job.
Oh.
Actually, I did get, I got fired once by getting in a fist fight on a golf course. I was a grounds crew kid when I was like 13. Wow. And we were playing around. This is a long story. We were playing around, like throwing leaves at each other. And someone punched me in the back of the neck as I'm like throwing leaves at him. So we're raking up like leaves and grass on the golf course. He punched me in the back of the neck, and then I just went crazy and got in a fist fight. I only got in 2 fights, real fights in my life. That was one of them. And I walked back to the kind of the grounds crew shed and washed my knuckles off because they're bleeding. And I was just high on adrenaline. And the kid who I got in a fight with walks back a couple minutes after me, and I couldn't recognize his face.
You punched him that bad?
I mean, it was just like, it was an animalistic reaction when someone punched me. It was just like, you know, I mean, it only lasted for maybe 10 seconds, and then someone took us off. There was other people around and kind of broke it up. But it just kind of hit him in the right spot, I guess, and it kind of swelled over his eye, looked like a softball in his eye, and I was just like, wow. And it was really the first time I felt like I had any power as a 13-year-old. And the grounds crew, like, leader or the boss saw him walk up, kind of yelling at me. And he just goes, "You're fired." And he like writes a check and gives it to him. And he's like, "Get out of here, never come back." And I was like, so that was my only.
That was law number 1B: never punch a colleague.
Exactly, never punch anyone. So, but for you, it was stressful and emotional getting fired.
Yeah, I mean, you take it personally, etc. And you
were like, "I was the best."
I was. I mean, I haven't had many jobs. Didn't stay at a job more than a year my whole life. But whenever I had a job, I worked very hard at it. And, you know, I was very conscientious. So that was very painful.
But don't you want to, I would think if someone's excelling on my team, I'd be like, celebrate them and keep going. Wouldn't you want that? Or do you not want people to?
Well, Lewis, come on.
Wouldn't you want people to accelerate?
You didn't read law number 1. People
Remind
have egos.
I understand, but...
Yeah, in a perfect world where angels were everywhere and we all just had wings and we were all just all out for other people and for the greater good, yeah.
Right.
But we happen to live in this planet that's not like that.
I know.
We're descended from primates. We're much different from that. And
So
people have egos.
how do you
And
grow
so,
how do you improve in a career but not outshine too much so you stay in the career, I guess?
well, you have to read law number one, but you have to first understand a very basic principle of human psychology.
Yeah.
Everybody has an ego, and everybody you meet is insecure. They have insecurities, okay? But your boss, the person above you, has even more insecurities and a larger ego than other people, and you don't think so. You're probably aware that they have an ego, but you don't think that they have insecurities because they're the boss, you know? But actually, they're always worried about whether people like them, whether people respect them, whether people think they're doing a good job or not. They're riddled with doubts, and they're constantly looking out for people to see though their body language, etc. Does that guy really respect me? Does he have an attitude, etc.? You don't think that. You think, if I just try hard to please the boss, it will work out wonderfully. But you might be doing something else. You might be stirring up their insecurities. So you have to always be aware in life of people's insecurities. It's like lesson number one. It's going to save you a lot of painful moments. The people you deal with are riddled with doubts. They're riddled with fears. They have things hanging over them from childhood. They're wondering about themselves. And you inadvertently are feeding their insecurities, and you never intended to. And then you find, wow, look what happened. And you don't even understand why it happened that way. So when you're fired for outshining the master, you don't know why you were fired. And it's very hard to learn a lesson when you don't know why it happened. That's what's so complicated and tricky about people. Because when people do something that's kind of harsh and negative, they never tell you why they're doing it. They always have a cover story, a narrative, right? They have a way of deflecting it as if they aren't to blame. And so you're confused. That's why I wrote The Laws of Human Nature, because you're continually confused, because people never tell you what they're really doing, why they're motivated, why they behave such a way. And you take their words and their appearance for reality, and it's not reality. So, that's the source of so much of your painful experiences in life.
Okay, so law number one, never outshine the master, was the law that you were really leaning into pre-stroke. Is there one post-stroke that you think about that sticks to you more, that connects to you in a different way now?
Yeah, I would say assume formlessness, which is law number 48. So that's why I said the symmetry.
Ooh, look at you.
I
like this.
And that's all about kind of being fluid and adapting to circumstances and never having like a concrete form. It's a very military law. Comes from Sun Tzu, and like the perfect army doesn't have a form. You can't figure out where they are, what their strategy is. Their strategy has no form. Or the great swordsman Miyamoto Musashi said that, nobody ever knew what my strategy would be. I was completely formless. So it's a way of being years old or about to enter the work world, or 21. Just be formless. No.
Master something, and then when you've mastered multiple things, you can adapt.
Miyamoto Musashi was fighting for 20 years as a swordsman in life and death battles, and he eventually developed this power of his, right? But if he were formless without ever having any experience, he would have been killed in his first sword fight. So, you have to have discipline. You have to assume, like, this is what I'm doing in life. This is my career path, as you talk about, as you mentioned in mastery. And you have to put in the hours, the 10,000, the 20,000 hours. And then when you get to the level of a master, like a Bobby Fischer in chess, then you can do anything you want. You're on another level. You can be as formless as possible, right? So, you're right. I'm not advocating that for just anybody out there. But for me, in my situation, after I've had, the success, and it's also for people who've suffered a major blow like that, like an illness or something, where your habits of thinking can get very set and very rigid, where every day you wake up and go, wow, why do I have to be like this? Why couldn't it happen this differently? And as opposed to being open to what life brings me every single day and not developing a kind of a defensive, rigid attitude.
One of the things that I love about your journey and story is that you mastered so many different types of writing over 20, 30 years. I think you were like first in a newspaper and then a magazine and then screenwriting and then certain types of books and then weird, you did all these different styles of writing that you tried a lot of things, mastered them to a certain point, which gave you the range to kind of write in the way you do now.
Yeah.
It gave you the ability to write the way you do now, which I think is interesting. So I like that you say that when you're in your 20s, like find something to hang on to master for a few years, then you can go to the next thing and that'll give you more range.
Well, I don't know if I can remember my metaphor, but it's like you want a path in life when you're 20, 21, 22, but you don't want it to be so rigid because you're going to burn out, you're going to get bored, and you're going to give up. You want that path to be like that instead of like this. So you can go this way, you can go this way, you can go this way, you can go this way. But if your path is like that, you'll never find anything because you'll try everything. So I knew I was to be a writer, and I tried 8 different forms of writing. You know, you want to be a musician, you try writing music, you try learning an instrument, you try performing, producing, you go into entertainment, a lawyer as a music lawyer, whatever. You try different things, but you know this is what I love in life. If you have no idea what you're going to love, and I deal with that because I help consult with people who come to me with that very issue. Robert, I don't know what my life's task is. I never had any education when I was a kid. That's the worst situation to be in. There are ways to solve that, but that's really painful because you have no idea where to go. But you want to have a sense, but you want to be fluid and open so that eventually what happens is you hit upon the right thing, right?
Most of us are never going to hit the right thing in 25.
No, I was 36, 37, your age.
Wow.
When it happened.
So maybe I'll start to feel like I'm hitting the right thing soon.
Yeah, you found it out a little early. You found it out like 8 years ago.
Yeah, I think so. But I think it's always evolving and growing, and you got to be fluid with it. So it's funny because I've been consistent with the main thing, which I started a podcast almost 8 years ago, and I said I'm going to do it once a week for a year and see how it goes. See if I like it, learn. But I got to be consistent enough for a year. Then I did twice a week for the second year. Now we've done 3 a week for the last 5, 6 years, I guess now. And I've been consistent in one thing, trying to improve. You see me from the first episode to now in the different stages, the leveling out the production, the set, everything, the audio quality, video, all these different things, my skills. But also I wrote a book. I'd never done that before. We did live events. It's like I'm trying new things as well that I'm not that good at start, but we start to master them over time.
Right.
To create more range and diversity. So, but I'm still sticking to the main thing is the main thing.
Right.
And evolving as I go. So
yeah, that's the perfect way to do it because, you need challenges in life.
You do.
So, I always look at it this way. If you're here, this is your skill level. A challenge like here is going to really improve you. If the challenge is here, it's too much, you'll fail and it'll have bad consequences. If you're here and you're below your level, you're going to get bored. So the optimum thing is to always choose your next project that's a little bit above you so you can learn and feel excited and challenged and have that adrenaline rush from trying to meet the challenge and get there and all your energy is involved. So that's the proper way to do things in life for me.
So what about the laws of human nature? What was one that you were like, oh, this is my law. This is the one that I love the most right now, for whatever reason, pre-stroke, to the one now that you think about more as important for your life?
Well, my favorite chapter was kind of about the dark side of human nature, the shadow. Confront your dark side and make it work for you as opposed to repressing it, right? So everybody has a dark side. I don't care if you're Mahatma Gandhi or whomever, you have a dark side, right? And it comes out in ways that you're not even aware of. And I explain in the book where our dark side originates from. As a child, we had a lot of powerful emotions that we couldn't control. We would hit our sister. We would play terrible practical jokes, and I'm not talking personal.
Yeah.
Terrible.
I did the same thing, yeah.
Terrible practical jokes. We'd be kind of mean and aggressive, but also we'd be very loving, which is true as well. We'd be a full range of things. And then you learn as you get older, Robert, you can't hit people in school. Stop that. Don't be like that. Don't play those practical jokes. It's bad. People don't like it. And you get older and older and you start repressing those kind of feelings that are very natural to you, right? Because we all have aggressive impulses. We love our parents, but there's also a side of us that doesn't like them. We resent them. It's natural. But we have to repress all that because we have to be good social animals. We have to be good little kids. We have to be little angels at school. We have to be angels at work. All this pressure, like, I've got to repress all that. I've got to be this perfect person. I have to be someone who pleases, who's very nice, blah, blah, blah. And then when you're 28, you start becoming addicted to alcohol and you don't know why. You start getting really angry, you have anger issues. You yell at people, you don't know why. You're like a 45-year-old person with a very steady profession. You leave your wife and you run off with a 19-year-old, destroying everything that you've built. The dark side has come out because you repressed it instead of dealing with it. So the idea was you need to understand your dark side, confront it, and make it work for you. And I have a dark side. I have, every chapter in the book, sometimes now I think that my answer wasn't the right answer, but I'll go with it anyway.
It's all good.
In writing the book, I kept having to say, I wrote a chapter on narcissism. Robert, you're a narcissist, I wrote a chapter on the dark side. I go, Robert, you have a dark side. The same thing with the chapter on aggression. And like, what is my dark side? And, I had to analyze it and deal with it and think about it and think about how any success I've had in life is because I managed to use those dark emotions in my work and channeled them because they have tremendous energy to them. They power you forward. So I had anger coming out of working in Hollywood. I kind of hated the environment. I hated people's hypocrisy. I hated all the sycophancy and all that. I was really angry, but I didn't let the anger turn inward. I channeled it into the 48 laws of power. So I used my dark side. And I really liked that law because it showed me that I'm a victim of this, but I also unconsciously learned how to use what I'm writing about. So I kind of drew on my own experience.
What about when you're in a relationship and you want the relationship to work long term? You want it to have, whether you're getting married and you want to, you want to last, and you don't want to just hang on to the marriage and be miserable, but you want it to be a happy, thriving existence, healthy, conscious, loving, to the best of your ability. Should we continue to seduce our partners in committed long-term relationships, or is that not something you do once you're in a relationship?
Well, I have a chapter in The Art of Seduction that deals with, I think it's the last chapter. And basically, I think a lot of people complain. It used to be women complained about it, but I think it transcends that, where we've been in a relationship for a year, and all the things that I'm going and hearing the woman talk, because I've heard this before, everything that he used to do, he doesn't do anymore.
Right.
He doesn't take me special places. He doesn't make that extra effort. He doesn't buy me special gifts anymore. All the things that he did when he wanted to have sex, he was like going crazy and doing all these things. He was dressing really well. Now he kind of dresses like a slob. He kind of doesn't want to go out anymore. I hear that more than I hear the opposite. Like, he keeps trying to seduce me and I'm getting tired of it. I don't hear that too much.
Right.
But I hear that he's taking me for granted, right? So it's not like you're practicing the same things that you did when you were trying to get that other person to fall in love with you. That would be exhausting, right? And I don't think it would really work. But it's that you still do some of the effort, right? You still try to surprise the other person. You still have sides of your character that they don't know about. You do things that they've never seen before. You take this and okay. So the main thing is get them to talk about their childhood.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, don't go, tell me about your father. Was he nice to you? Just,
what question can you ask in an organic, relaxed way that would open that up to you?
Well, in the course of a context, you can say, I don't know. It's like, are you close to your parents? Do you see them? And then just without being, too inquisitive, without making it clear that that's what you're doing, just get them to talk about their early life.
Why is that important to figuring out people's secret desires as adults, asking about their childhood?
Because it's the key to everything.
Really?
In the Laws of Human Nature, I have a chapter about, I call it about gender, about the mix of the masculine and feminine in us. And there's a concept from the great psychologist Jung called the anima and animus. And he basically says that from a man, from his mother, if you're straight, because things change, the man from his mother internalizes an image of women that it will haunt him for his entire life.
Wow.
Right? Because the relationship between a mother and son is very intense. It's not the same as between a mother and a daughter, right? Because she's the opposite gender. You're suckling on her breast. She's the only person you know for the first couple of years. It's very powerful. And unconsciously, her image slips inside of you. You internalize a part of it. And you're going to have this, you're going to carry with this. Even if you don't like your mother and you come to not like her later on, that image is still inside of you, and you're still going to choose women that have some of those qualities that you would like, you wish your mother had, or that she did have. So those early relationships, the woman with her father will tell you so much about her and about her weaknesses and her vulnerabilities.
Really?
And what she's missing. Yeah.
So what if if the person...
That's one,
Okay.
Anything where the person gets excited, right?
Then just take note of that.
Yeah.
And start...
If you touch upon a subject and you see that they get nervous or they laugh a lot, they're very excited, just put that in your little index there and go and return to it. And know you've hit upon a chord, a subject that either excites them or gives them like fear or whatever. There's something very powerful going on there, right?
Right.
So, and childhood is a very powerful one like that.
So what should people be aware of when they're getting into a relationship? What do you think are a few questions they should ask and get answers to see if it's a potential for a good relationship or it's going to be completely off, or they're just wasting their time trying to get into this? Are there any questions you can think of?
Well, no, I can't think of questions. It's more like...
Or should it be asking, how is your parents' relationship and this and that?
It's not that direct. It's not that verbal. It's not that intellectual. It's more of a kind of a spirit meshing between two people, right? So there are plenty of examples of couples that have done extremely well where they kind of disagree on political issues, although that can be a problem as well. But there's a little bit of tension on that, but they connect on some deeper level. I refer people to that chapter I was just talking about in the Laws of Human Nature, where there's a level where we connect to people that is not on the surface, that is kind of nonverbal. It has to do with our unconscious. It has to do with things that we've never been able to get from our parents or whatever. And we kind of have these ideals that have been unmet. And connecting on that level, connecting on the level of spirit, where your emotions, it's more like your emotions mesh together well than your ideas. Like there's,
Yes.
And because if that other person is incredibly dramatic and out there, and that's not something you can, even though they have the similar ideas to, it's going to grate on your nerves.
I saw a post recently, excuse me, about something like, I'm going to mess this up, but something like you don't marry the person, you marry the person's like trauma, you marry their, in-laws trauma, you marry like what they haven't healed yet, you marry their emotional, the relationship to certain things. You're marrying the emotions of the person, really.
Yes, exactly.
And being aware, like, just because they look great and just because you have fun together certain times, you're really marrying all the other stuff along with it.
Right. And you won't find that out right away.
Because they're good at hiding it.
Yeah.
Right. They're good at like reserving that until 6 months, a year, 2 years later. Right.
Yeah.
So it's making sure that your emotions mesh well over your ideals. Is that what I'm hearing?
Over the intellectual part, over just the superficial fact that you both vote Democratic or Republican, or that you both like this movie director. I mean, certain tastes that mesh are important, but I don't think there has to be kind of a charge between you, a kind of something that goes on underneath the surface that has nothing to do with just words or kind of superficial things, something deep.
Spiritual.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people will think, oh, we have all these things in common. We have this connection. This is a great match. But then they don't experience the emotional or spiritual level.
Right.
And then that comes out later and you're like, well, we are from the same city and we went to the same school and we voted whatever.
Yeah.
And we have similar friends and we like to go to baseball games.
Yeah.
But if there's not that spiritual or emotional meshing.
Bro, well, you hit your idea is very apt. You are mirroring the other person's emotions, right? And so that's not something that you see right away. And you could love the same movies, you can have all these other things. But if that part isn't connecting on the right way, if they're revealing something that's going to really drive you crazy after several months or years, doesn't matter about how well your ideas are similar.
What if your ideas are amazing together? The sexual connection is incredible, but the emotional level is not in sync.
Well, it's hard to generalize.
Yes.
Have a relationship. It'll probably last just a few weeks or a couple months. It'll be hard to build a relationship where you don't connect on this kind of deeper level.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not to say that it doesn't happen. And it isn't to say that people can't change, right? So, you might discover after 5 years that this person has qualities that kind of get on your nerves a little bit. You wish you had seen them earlier. But by then you've fallen in love with them.
Right.
And you go, I can appreciate their weaknesses. I can love their weaknesses. I can get over it. It still kind of irritates me. It still irritates me, but there's something deeper. I actually really love this person. And even their flaws are lovable. And that happens, right? So it's hard to generalize about everything. And you can't change. You can see that maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I'm too cold and rational and they're too dramatic. And maybe I can learn from her or him and become more like them. People change, and that's the great thing about a great relationship, is the ability for the other person to change you as well.
To influence you, yeah. How long have you been in your relationship now?
It's over 20 years.
Over 20 years. What do you wish you knew about, being in a long-term relationship like this 20 years ago? Is there anything you would have done differently on your end, or anything that you would wish you would have known to, I don't know, it seems like it's been a happy, healthy relationship to last that long. But is there anything you wish you would have knew earlier, Robert, at that point before getting into the relationship?
You mean, and not have the relationship, or what?
No, and being in the relationship, like things that you could have, I don't know, it's things you could have eliminated or things that you could have done differently yourself to make it even greater, or wish you would have solved things before challenges came up for you, if they did come up?
Well,
or have you just been the king of relationships?
No, not at all. As I made very clear, I have got my own problems, my own flaws, No, I mean, being more forgiving would have probably helped, I can be kind of rigid and kind of stubborn, thinking I know the right way all the time. And I felt like, she had certain flaws that were really too strong. And if I could just go with them and say that I have flaws as well, and be a little more humble and being more forgiving of her, I think that would have helped.
Yeah.
And that's not easy all the time.
How important is it, do you think, being in a healing process before entering a new relationship, as opposed to just jumping into a relationship without the process of reflection, self-awareness, looking at what pain has caused you in your past that you haven't forgiven or healed?
It's very, very important, because oftentimes your choices with a partner occur for reasons that you're not aware of.
Really?
And I talked about an example in The Laws of Human Nature that's sort of a classic case in therapy, where this man had come to a therapist and he had a series of 10 very powerful emotional relationships. And each time he broke it off, and he would say, she betrayed me here. I found out that this was happening, and I no longer loved her, on and on and on.
Mm.
The therapist started to go into his early childhood, and he discovered that he had a mother, this man, who was very cold, wasn't very loving to him. And he had a sense, chosen to abandon you. It scars you, scars that 3-year-old in a way that he'll never get over. And so what his pattern was, each time he got in a relationship, before the woman could begin to maybe hurt him and abandon him, he was the one doing the abandoning. It gave him a sense of power and control.
Mm-hmm.
It was like he was redoing the mother relationship where he was the one abandoning and not being abandoned. He was not aware of this at all. He'd gone through 35 years of his life and all of these relationships, probably choosing women that kind of mirrored that early relationship as well, but that he could then have abandoned them so he could have this feeling of power. Now, you might not be having something so dramatic going on in your life, but you will have patterns like that. And I know I've had patterns like that, and I've analyzed them and I've become aware of them. And so if you've been in a very bruising, kind of damaging relationship, which we've all had if you've been alive for enough years, right? It is absolutely essential that you step back and analyze it, because kind of negative relationships and traumas like that will reveal a lot of truths about yourself. You will tend to blame the other person for everything, but you need to look at yourself and see the patterns that are making you fall for people like that, right?
You getting into those relationships over and over again.
Yeah.
So what would it look like when you start the healing process or the awareness process of, okay, I'm the one who's responsible for this pattern. I'm the common denominator of all these relationships. So there's, partially me to be responsible for. What would it feel like to start the healing process? And what would that next relationship look like when you make a commitment? Would it just feel different? Would it feel like, oh, this is very healthy? How would that look, do you think?
Well, there's a lot of problems. It's not easy.
Yeah.
And the main problem, Lewis, is, believe it or not, some of those early dysfunctional relationships with your parents are charged with this kind of sexual energy.
Really?
Yeah. And so you'll find yourself attracted to the very man or woman who's going to hurt you. Whereas the man or woman who's good for you, there's no kind of sexual charge. Because, and this isn't everybody, this is maybe a third, I don't know what the percentage is. Don't quote me.
Sure.
But you are actually more attracted to the person that has these damaged qualities.
Why is that?
Because you get to relive some of those early traumas, right? And so the problem that will happen, and I can see this in my own life as well, that the person who is good for you, there's actually caring that will mesh with you, that physical charge maybe isn't as strong, right? And that's a problem, right? Because you want to have that element. But you need to be aware of this. You need to be aware of the fact that some of the people that you're most attracted to, you're not attracted to just because of their sexy body or whatever it is. There's also some kind of issues you haven't worked out from your early childhood that are at play in that relationship and that are going to cause you a lot of pain.
Why does that turn us on sexually, do you think? Why is the human brain turned on by drama and, unhealthy relationships? Like, why is that?
Well, I would be a multi-billionaire by now if I could answer those questions.
Yes.
I'd be the ultimate doctor of love. But I can say this, that when you're a child, you're 2 or 3 years old, we're talking about entering the spirit. Try and enter the spirit of the 3-year-old Lewis Howes. You're very vulnerable. You're very weak, right? You're at the mercy of this person who's very powerful, your mother and also your father, or it depends on what, you're at their mercy, right? And you're open to them. You depend on them for so much. So the emotional energy that you are putting onto them is extremely powerful.
Wow.
More powerful than any other relationship you'll have in your life, and you're not aware of it. And so it meshes with all these other kind of physical impulses and desires that you have. Because a child who's 2 or 3 years old is actually still having like sexual impulses very early on. It's kind of creating a pattern of attraction that you are very rarely aware of. It's not to say everybody is like that, but it's a pretty common denominator that, you know, if you have, for instance, a very narcissistic mother, right, who was more interested in herself than in you, you're going to be attracted to narcissistic women.
If you're a man. Yeah, gotcha. Wow.
Yeah. And you're not aware of it. And, you know, it creates a lot of pain for you, right? So you've got to go through a process. It's kind of like there's the ancient Greek play of Oedipus, right? I don't know if you were. He kills his father, and then he ended up marrying his mother.
Crazy.
Yeah. You know, so we get the Oedipus complex from, right? And he never realizes it until he's like in his late 30s and he's gone through his whole career as the lead king of Thebes. And then suddenly he's made aware of it through various things that happen, right? And it's like, oh my God, really? I've done all that? This is what my life is? And he's so overwhelmed that he cuts his eyes out and he blinds himself as proof of, you know, how blind he was in life.
Wow.
And so the Greeks are saying in that play that we're all kind of blind. Fate kind of pushes us around and we're not even aware of it. And the moment of feeling enlightened about becoming aware of some of these patterns in your childhood is actually a great moment. It's very painful, but it's very powerful, you know. Sorry, I didn't mean to take it. I didn't mean to take it to such a dark place.
No, I love this. Let's say someone has been through a tough breakup, and maybe this is their first breakup they've gone through that was tough, a tough relationship, or this is a pattern. This is their third or fifth relationship in 10 years that's been like, you know, what's wrong with me? What would you say would be the next 3 things they should focus on after the breakup on how to find that awareness and open their eyes on how to start, you know, observing men or women in a different way before they get so committed and go all in and start fantasizing about how amazing they are? What would you say are 3 things they could do before entering another relationship?
Well, first of all, to become acquainted with yourself and to know who you are and know the source of your own desires. So if it's your very first relationship, it's a little hard to see patterns, but you can begin to see patterns of the kind of person that you're attracted to after the 3rd or 4th time, and to analyze that and to be aware of it. Now, if, you know, some people will say, well, won't that kind of ruin the whole relationship game that I'm analyze myself that seems so unseductive, etc. And, you know, if you're in your 20s and you're healthy and you're young, maybe it doesn't matter so much.
Right.
You know, you're going to have some painful moments, but you're having a lot of fun. Okay, I'm not going to, you know, rain on that parade. But eventually, you're not going to be so young. You're going to be in your late 20s. You're going to be in your early 30s. And the series of bad relationships, they're going to start wearing on you. They're going to start creating trauma. And they'll start infecting you with this kind of defensiveness, where every time you meet someone, you're worried that they're going to hurt you, and you can't, like, you know, open yourself up to them, right? So you've got to, as early as possible, understand your own patterns. Why am I attracted to this person? Just simply ask that question, right? It's, you know, like, what was it about him or her that attracted me to that person? You know? Is there something I'm not thinking about? Could I have foreseen some of the darker side of this person earlier on? Yes, most obviously. Could I have seen the fact that he could be someone who could be kind of cold and abusive? Yes. You know, oftentimes a man who is like that will love bomb the woman. He'll overwhelm them with emotion so they get confused and they're not aware of it. That also is a sign when a man overwhelms you in the first 2 days with so much attention that he's hiding something dark. But don't look at it as if it's always the other person. See your own temptation, why you give into someone like that, why you are attracted to people like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go through that process and then say, all right, what are the qualities that I really, really want? What is important for me that I'm not getting from this person? You know, the sex is great, but there are other things that are more important, like validation, like the other person cares about my work and about my career. They're not just interested in me as a physical presence, but they actually show interest in my future, right?
Yes.
What are these things that I need that are very important to me that I didn't get in that last relationship, right?
Yes.
Who am I, right? That's just the question. Who am I? What are my deepest needs? And what are my dark patterns, right?
Yes.
And then to go through a process of, we talked about this earlier, if I now become all defensive and closed, and if I'm like always right, you have to open yourself up a little bit here.
Yeah.
And if you do that and you're hurt again, at least you can say that that person who hurt me earlier on has no more power over me. You know, I'm still able to fall in love. I'm still able to open myself up to another person.
Yes.
It's incredibly important to be able to feel vulnerable to another person. It's a deep human need. It goes back to our childhood. It's part of our human nature. And if you close yourself off, it's not only going to affect your romantic relationships, it's going to affect you in work and everything.
Yeah, so don't jump into another relationship if you're closed off, is what I'm hearing you say. Like, be willing to heal that part or process it.
And then one last thing.
Yes.
You asked for 3. Those were 2.
Yes.
I give you a third. The third is learn to judge people by their character.
So true.
All right? So not the superficial charm and smiles and all the great stuff that they're able to fake, but who they are deep inside, right? You know, do they have some of these strong character traits? Can they take criticism? Man, you have no idea that that is such an important quality in a relationship.
Taking criticism?
Yeah. If that other person cannot take any kind of criticism, how can you be in a relationship with them? And they find ways to make you pay for criticizing them. They get passive aggressive. They get cold. Oh, I'm never going to do that again. You can't be in a relationship.
Right.
So judge someone like that. Can they take criticism? Can they deal with moments of stress? Can they get outside of themselves and think about me? You know, think about how they are in a conversation. Do they hear what you're saying? Do they come back with things that reveal the fact that they've been listening to you, that they picked up signals from you? Get inside them, get inside their character, and be able to judge them on that basis as opposed to their sexy veneer that they have. So those would be the 3 things. It all starts with something very simple, which is the power over yourself. If you have no power over yourself, then you're at the whim of everything else in this world, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what does that mean to have power over yourself? Well, and this is a lot of what I talk about in the daily laws. It begins with something very simple, which is you have to know who you are, right? So you're walking around in this world. You don't know really who you are. You don't know what your needs are, what you really desire in your life, because you're a product of social media. You're a product of what other people are telling you should like, what your parents tell you, what your friends tell you. You don't know who you are, what drives you, what really motivates you deep down. And so you're kind of wandering in life. And when you're unmoored from yourself, everything else will affect you in a way that you cannot control, right?
When you're what from yourself?
Unmoored.
What's that mean?
When you don't have an anchor, like a moor is like an anchor.
Okay.
So
you gotta speak in simple terms to me.
Sorry. Maybe it's my pronunciation.
No, it's good. No. I don't know what the word is. That's what I'm saying. Unmoored. Gotcha.
Okay. So it's like a boating to me.
Yeah.
So you know, if you don't know like what you were intended to do in life, like what your career was that meshes with you well, right? You're going to be making all of these wrong decisions, and people will do things to you that you won't be able to understand why you're reacting the way you're reacting.
Yes.
You'll get lost. You'll end up in blind alleys with your career, and you'll go, man, I'm so helpless. I have no power. I have no control. the world is against me. It's 2021. It's the pandemic. No, it's you. It starts inside of you. The real problem is in you, not in the world, right? You don't know who you are. And it's not easy. I have sympathy for people because we're so distracted. We're so much in our phones. We're so much listening to what other people are telling us is cool on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, etc. We're like creatures of media. We've been programmed. We don't know really what drives us anymore. We're so tuned to what other people are telling us is what we should be interested in, right? So it's not easy. It takes some time. It takes some reflection, right? That means that you have to have the ability to step back, be alone with your thoughts. And as this book is talking about, meditate and reflect on your childhood, on who you are, on the mistakes you've made, on the wrong career paths you've taken, on the wrong relationships you've taken, and begin to construct an image of that real secret inner, the true Lewis Howes that lies buried deep within all the bullshit that people have added onto it. If you can't control yourself, if you don't know yourself, you can't control your own emotions. You're going to be reacting to everything that comes your way without having understanding why you're doing that. So when you know yourself, you know, I don't need to get angry about this because it's not something that touches me personally. It doesn't matter in the end. Whereas if you don't know who you are, everything affects you personally and you're getting grumpy and insecure and bitter and resentful. You have to start with yourself. It goes back to the ancient Greeks and the Oracle of Delphi. Know thyself.
Right. What is the source of our inner power that we maybe aren't even aware of?
Very simple. What makes you an individual? What makes you different? Your uniqueness. That's what the first month in the Daily Laws is about, the month of January. So if you look at people who are successful, you look at a Lewis Howes, or you look at a Steve Jobs or Elon Musk or whomever, you say to yourself, there's nobody else like them on the planet. You may hate Elon Musk. You may think he's an egocentric maniac, but you can't tell me there's another person with with that kind of guts,
right?
With that kind of confidence and with that kind of vision, right? Okay, because he's one of a kind, right? And you're going around trying to imitate other people, trying to do what you think other people are doing. You're running away from your source of power. What makes you unique, what makes you even weird, what you may even be afraid of because it's so different from other people, is your source of power. It's what makes you a Superman or woman or whatever. Yes. So I don't want to talk about myself too much because who's interested in that? But, I write books that nobody else has the same kind of structure or the same kind of approach. That is my source of power. And very early on, it was threatened. I wrote the 48 Laws of Power. We finished it in 1998. The publisher had already purchased it, but they came back and they go, Robert, this book's a little weird.
Yes.
The structure, the things on the side. We want you to change it. We want you to make it more like other books out there. And me and my partner, the guy who packaged it, he backed me up and we said, no, we'll walk away from the deal. We'll find someone else. Because we knew that being different was the key to making this book a success. It could very easily fail. It could have bombed, but it would have failed in the right way, which is being yourself, doing something different, standing out and not being afraid of what makes you unique.
And how old were you then when you launched that book?
I was 39 when it came out.
39. Did you have a lot of success prior that would have shown this would have been a success?
No.
So you weren't some big shot writer that was
Absolutely
getting awards and other things?
I was the very opposite of that.
You were the opposite?
Yeah. Well, I mean, very simply, quickly, I graduated college. I wandered around Europe kind of trying to write the great American novel. I lived in Paris. I lived in Spain. I lived in London. Had all kinds of seductions. I had a great life, a lot of fun. Then I come back to New York. It's time to get serious. I get into journalism. kind of started off successfully. I worked at Esquire, but then I didn't really like journalism and it kind of wasn't working. And then after 4 years, I go, this isn't right for me. Go back to Europe. I wander around and try to write another novel, fail again. I come back to LA to try and make it in the film business, and it doesn't work well. And I'm a failed screenwriter. I wander around to try to write another novel, fail again. I come back to LA to try and make it in the film business, and it doesn't work well. And I'm a failed screenwriter. I work for various film directors, but I can't sell a single one of my screenplays.
Wow.
And here I am, 35, 36. I have a lot of skill. I've learned writing for film. I've learned writing for journalism. I've been writing novels. I have skill. I have discipline. I have research ability, but I have nothing to show for it.
Right.
Absolutely nothing. I was a nobody. And this man whom I met, who, I've told the story many times, I pitched the idea of the 48 Laws of Power. He thought it was great. But, there's a big difference between pitching something and making it happen. But because I had been so disciplined and I'd been writing all this time, I could actually, meet his expectations and write a proposal that would get him excited. But I had nothing to back up to answer your question, I had nothing to back up my confidence that this book would be good. Just simply having a sense it's a book about power. And I understood instinctively that power is about kind of going your own way, enter action with boldness. That's going to be one of my chapters. Then I'm going to be all weak and timid about my book and how it has to be like other books. But I'm a hypocrite. So I was bold, we were bold, and it turned out well.
So you were 39 when the book came out, almost pretty much 40 years old with nothing to show for your life, except for lots of experience, but not a bunch of success or accomplishment.
No success, no accomplishments. My parents were starting to give up.
So you turned 40, and the book really didn't take off right away, right? Didn't it take some time for it to kind of...
It did well. I mean, it got attention. We got a lot of press for it. It kind of stirred, because it's a weird book, kind of stirred up some interest. And it was selling, but it's selling much more now than it did back then.
Really?
Yeah.
20-something years later.
Oh, man, like during the pandemic, the sales have skyrocketed.
No way.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So how did you have confidence to claim your inner power after years and years of trying things and not working out the way you wanted, kind of trying something else? How did you stay consistent with your inner power and not lose sight of at least trying new things?
Well, it's a great question, and it's not an easy answer, but it might even sound a little bit insane, to be honest with you. But deep down inside, I always had kind of a weird faith in myself. I always had a sense that there was a destiny that my life was following this certain path, that there was something fated to happen. Maybe it was a little bit grandiose. Maybe it was kind of overconfidence, because it would swing up and down. I would go from confidence to the deepest depression. But deep down inside, I never gave up, because I knew I had something in me. Now if the 48 Laws of Power hadn't worked, I don't know if I would have gotten my act together.
Wow.
I might have been crushed by it, to be honest with you. Or maybe I would have picked myself up like I had picked myself up 30, 40 other times in the past, when people told me, like this one editor, Robert, you're never going to be a good writer. You should go into business or law school. I've been crushed several times, and I picked myself up. But, I don't know if that might have been the nail in my coffin, literally, at that point. But I had a voice inside of me saying, you can write. I know you can write. I've seen you write, Robert. I've seen you write great things. You've never put it together. You never made it consistent, but you have a voice. And that the inner voice of mine might have gotten smaller and smaller and smaller, so I could barely hear it, but it never left me.
How does someone give themselves more power when they feel defeated?
Well, we're circling back to the original thing, you know? So if you know that you were destined for something, that you were fated for something, that you have a sense that your life had a meaning, a purpose, then you can withstand the traumas, the setbacks, the difficulties, the bullshit criticism, and all the other things, right? So in mastery, I talk about a very simple fact. When you were born, you have this DNA that will never be replicated in the history of the universe.
Crazy.
There will never be another person with your exact makeup, Lewis Howes. And on top of that, no one will ever have your exact parents and your upbringing and your early life. So there's only one of you that's ever existed, right? And that there's a reason for that. There's a purpose behind it. And the purpose behind it is our culture, the same thing as in nature, thrives by the diversity, the people coming into it with different angles, different perceptions, different ideas.
Mhm.
That's what makes a culture creative, etc. It's why the Renaissance was so great. All right. So it is a purpose for you being who you are, right?
Yes.
And it may not be that you were destined to be Napoleon or a president or whatever, but there is some kind of greatness in you waiting to come out. And it could be just on the level of working with your hands. Working with your hands is a great skill. To be a master carpenter, to be a master builder with wood or whatever, that is a form of greatness.
Absolutely.
You were destined to do something like that. And it was in, like a seed was planted at your birth. But if you don't know what that is, then you can't find your way back to it. And if you're 24 and you're in my position, and that man who's having his third martini says, Robert, you're never going to be a great writer, go to business school, I would have gone to business school. I wouldn't be here talking to you. But I kind of sensed deep down inside that I was destined for something else, right? I talk to a lot of people, particularly in the podcast world, people who began other careers. They went into law, they went into something else.
Mhm.
They weren't happy, right? And then they found their way to like creating a podcast, and it's taken off, right? It's made their lives. They found their way slowly to something else. It wasn't just any old podcast. It was something that reflected their own strangeness, their own weirdness. But they have discovered something that they were destined to do that makes them different, right?
Yes.
Because there are a million other people who can do the same thing out there in this world. But there's only one person like you, born with your own strangeness, your own inclinations, you know?
Absolutely.
There's the Jimi Hendrix song. I don't quote him often, but he says, I'm going to wave my freak flag high, right? You want to wave your freak flag high. You're a freak, you're weird, you're different, but embrace it. That's your source of power. And when people criticize you and you have setbacks, you'll land back on your feet if you know that. You'll have moments of doubt and depression like I did, but you'll eventually land back on your feet.
Do you think it's possible to accomplish your goals and achieve great things and be a success in whatever the definition is for you without going through multiple failures? Do you think it's possible to just be, just finish school and now the first thing I do, it's just going to work out and everything just works? Is that possible?
I'd say no.
No.
Yeah. Because it's just not how life goes, you know? I mean, think of like the greatest athletes in the world, people who are at the top 0.1% of the top of their profession. They're failing all of the time.
Yeah.
They're not winning championships every year, right? Their careers go up and down. Everybody who's successful, you will see ups and downs. We venerate Steve Jobs as perhaps the greatest tech entrepreneur. He went through an incredibly dark period. After he founded the company, he got fired from Macintosh. He founded Next, which was a failure. He was as depressed as I was in the mid-90s. He didn't know what was going on. Then he got his career resurrected with Apple on a second go. He had a career that went like that, you know. I mean, you can take any name and you can find the same kind of trajectory.
Right.
And it's because through failure, you develop some toughness, some inner toughness, right? You develop a thick skin. You're able to take it, right? Life involves adversity. And if you've only had everything good, the first time something happens that you don't expect, you're just going to wilt. So I don't care who you are. There's always somebody, people who are successful have always had some kind of failure or adversity. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to stay on,
Right.
to rebound.
A lot of people are afraid to create something because they don't want to fail. They're afraid to start, launch, create.